morning of June 2022 began with an unusual commotion on Kalama Street in the town of Kihei on the island of Maui. 6 unmarked police cars quietly pulled up in front of a small 2-story house nestled among palm trees, swaying in the sea breeze. Neighbors peeked through their curtains as officers in bulletproof vests positioned themselves around the area, the faint crackle of radios cutting through the salty, humid morning air. Inside, Karen Scott, 57, was preparing her morning coffee, a habit she had maintained for over a decade since moving to Maui and living quietly after leaving Oʻahu. A rapid knocking sounded at 6:43 a.m. Karen Scott, Honolulu Police. "We have a warrant for your arrest in connection with the 2010 disappearance of Eva Kane." The officers later recounted that her hand trembled slightly as she set down her coffee cup, steam still rising from the mug in the kitchen. But Karen's expression barely changed, unnaturally calm, as if she had known this moment would come, just not that it would arrive after 12 years. Before diving deeper into the story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the latest cases. In May 2010, Kalua, a quiet coastal town on the island of Oʻahu, still maintained the steady rhythm of an affluent, middle-class community, where wooden homes faced the ocean and the familiar sound of waves mingled with the hum of old ceiling fans. Against that serene backdrop, Eva Kane, 58, a former model from the 1970s, lived with her husband, Hal Kane, the owner of a growing chain of real estate projects. They were considered one of the neighborhood's model couples, often appearing at charity events and local community groups. That morning, the weather was clear, sunlight spilling evenly across the wooden porch steps of their home. Eva was preparing to leave for the fish market near the bay. She told the housekeeper she would return before lunch to prepare the meal. It was a familiar routine, nothing out of the ordinary. The housekeeper saw her carrying a small purse and car keys, then walking out the front gate. From that point, no one ever saw Eva Kane again. Lunchtime passed in silence. The house phone rang a few times, but no one answered. By early afternoon, the housekeeper grew worried and called Eva's close friend, but there was no news. When Hal Kane returned from his office at the end of the day, he noticed the front door ajar, the kitchen light still on, Eva's jacket still hanging on the hook, but she was nowhere to be found. He walked through every room, calling his wife's name, even checking the backyard and the small seaside garden. No sign she had returned home that day. At first, Hal thought she might have visited a friend or had car trouble, but after calling around with no leads, he began to feel uneasy. That very evening, the family contacted the local police to report her missing, providing personal details, a description of her clothing, and the time she left the house. The official report was logged in the Honolulu Police Department's duty book, marking the moment the case was formally recorded, a woman missing from Kalama, Oʻahu, with no trace left behind. The Kane family's report was received late that evening at the Honolulu Police Department's dispatch center. The information was entered into the shift log as an adult missing person case with unusual circumstances, a 58-year-old female resident of Kalama who left home in the morning and did not return. Since the report came in late in the day, the duty team transferred the file to the Missing Persons Investigation Unit for urgent handling. The case was assigned to Detective Ryan Okada, the lead of the specialized team, who had previously handled numerous searches for elderly individuals and sudden disappearances on Oʻahu. The next morning, Okada and 2 officers arrived at the scene. The Kane's home was in a quiet area with a low fence and an entrance facing the ocean. Upon arrival, he noted the front door was open with no signs of forced entry on the lock. Inside, everything was tidy, with no evidence of breakage or missing property. He checked the porch, living room, kitchen, and backyard. Everything was in its normal place. Eva's personal car was still parked in the garage, indicating she had not left by vehicle. The housekeeper, the only person present that morning, provided the initial statement. According to her, Eva had seemed completely normal. She woke early, had a light breakfast, said she was going to the fish market and would be back before noon. There were no signs of stress, no mention of meeting anyone or having other plans. During the interview, Okada noted that the housekeeper had never known Eva to leave without notice. He then interviewed Hal Kane. Hal said he had left the house around 8 a.m. to attend a real estate conference in Honolulu, and when he left, his wife was still in the kitchen. According to him, Eva had taken a small purse and house keys, but had no reason to go far or stay overnight. Okada asked about Eva's mental state recently. Hal replied that she was healthy, only occasionally complaining of fatigue due to the weather. He denied any conflicts between them. After completing the initial documentation, police proceeded with preliminary data collection. The last time someone saw the victim, daily routines, health status, family and social relationships. The initial information showed Eva led a stable life resolution, rarely traveled off the island, had a limited circle of friends, and stayed in regular contact with family. A temporary report was filed, classifying the case as missing under unusual circumstances, meaning no evidence of voluntary departure or personal reasons. By late morning, the investigation team compiled a list of areas to search near the home: the beach, the local market, and the pedestrian path connecting the neighborhood to Kailua Bay. A copy of the file was sent to the Search Coordination Office for collaboration. As he left the scene, Okada noted in his personal report, the house was too orderly, showing no signs of emergency or panic, and that was precisely what made the case so puzzling. The morning after Eva Kane's missing person file was opened, the Honolulu Police Department officially launched the initial search phase. Detective Ryan Okada's investigation team coordinated with the Hawaii Coast Guard and local rescue units to conduct a search within a 3-mile radius of the Kailua neighborhood. The plan was urgently drafted at the police substation near the beach. The targeted areas included the entire Kailua Bay shoreline, the fish market Eva intended to visit, the parking lot near the public park, and the eastern path down to the sandy shore, where locals often swam in the morning. Police set up a temporary command post at the entrance to the Kane residence to coordinate information. From early morning, patrol helicopters were deployed, flying along the coast to scan sandy dunes and coconut groves near the water's edge. The Coast Guard used sonar to sweep the shallow seabed around the bay, while local rescue teams divided into small groups to comb every segment of the path to the market and parking areas near the shore. K-9 units were brought in, carrying scent samples from Eva's clothing to track any trail, but the results were unpromising. Streets were cordoned off with warning barriers, and residents were asked to provide any possible information. Many confirmed nothing unusual that morning. A few recalled seeing Eva walking past the main intersection, but no one saw her return. Under media pressure, local newspapers quickly ran the story on the front page: mysterious disappearance of Kailua woman. Television stations replayed old footage from community events, describing Eva as friendly and influential in the neighborhood. The story drew public attention because there were no clear criminal elements and no evidence the victim left voluntarily. Over the first 2 days, search teams continuously expanded the scope, but found no personal items, no purse, no glasses, no reliable footprints in the sand. The Coast Guard concluded that the water currents and wind direction on the day of the incident were not strong enough to sweep someone far offshore. The rescue unit's initial report stated clearly, no physical signs or unusual currents related to a drowning accident. By the end of the second day, the search had yielded no concrete results. The entire area from the fish market to the bay's edge was swept one final time before narrowing the scope. Okada noted in the debrief summary, no direct trace of the victim, no witnesses to the incident. The accident hypothesis is not supported by physical evidence. As night fell, rescue teams paused operations, leaving only a small group on standby at the shoreline. Meanwhile, the police report was moved to the analysis phase, marking the shift from active searching to evaluating the cause of the disappearance. In the days following the initial large-scale search that yielded no results, Detective Ryan Okada's investigation team shifted focus to reconstructing the entire timeline of Eva Kane's disappearance. The goal was to pinpoint exactly where she went, whom she met, and where she vanished. The work began with image data sources around the neighborhood. The team visited every home with security cameras, identifying a total of 6 houses that still had footage from that morning. All hard drives were copied and sealed for analysis. After 3 days of processing, the forensic imaging team compiled the first valuable clip around 9 a.m. A woman in a green dress, tall and slender, walking along the main road toward the ocean. Though blurry, the clothing and gait were confirmed by the housekeeper to match Eva. Of the 6 cameras, none captured her returning or leaving the area by another means. Footage after 10 a.m. showed the street completely quiet, with only a few pedestrians and delivery vehicles. This led Okada to determine that the period from when Eva left home until 10 a.m. was the critical window. Beyond the footage, the team expanded witness statements. A resident at the end of the street, about 200 meters from the Kane home, reported seeing a strange middle-aged man with gray hair, wearing glasses and a light-colored shirt, standing near the Kane garden fence that same morning. He appeared to be holding a stack of papers or flyers. According to the witness, the man stood there for a few minutes before heading toward the parking lot by the beach. The statement was fully documented, but the witness did not see him interact directly with Eva. Meanwhile, Eva's cell phone data was requested from the carrier. The technical report showed the phone connected to the nearest tower at 9:56 a.m., then went completely silent at 10:10. There were no outgoing or incoming calls, nor any data activity during that time. The sudden signal loss within a small radius of the neighborhood was hard to explain, as the area had no dead zones. The team also checked Eva's bank and credit card transactions on May 8. Results showed no withdrawals, purchases, or use of taxis or public transport. All signs of her activity ceased completely after that morning. Okada created a summary table with 3 columns: time, verification source, and reliability level. According to the table, Eva's final activity window was confirmed from 8:45 to 10:10 a.m., with a maximum travel range of about 400 meters from the house. Investigators returned to the scene to observe the walking route from the Kane home to the fish market, a less than 5-minute path. The route had only 2 turns and no alternative shortcuts. The accident hypothesis was ruled out due to no dangerous areas or signs of a fall. At the end of the analysis session, Okada wrote in the daily report, "Victim left home around 9 a.m., walked toward the ocean, phone signal lost at 10:10, no financial transactions or transport. Probability of her leaving Kailua voluntarily is nearly 0. His final note revealed growing unease in what seemed like a simple case, a woman vanishing in broad daylight on a familiar path, leaving no trace of action or resistance. 3 days after the investigation team completed compiling image data and pinpointing Eva Kane's disappearance timeline, search operations continued expanding southward from Kailua. The Coast Guard proposed scanning the shoreline near Makaputhu Point, where small currents converged before flowing offshore. It was a complex terrain area, interspersed with steep cliffs and submerged reefs, accessible only by small boats. Early that morning, a local rescue team patrolling by motorboat spotted a pale green object caught on a rocky outcrop about 50 meters from shore. When retrieved, it was a thin scarf, lightweight fabric, still holding some dried salt from evaporated seawater. The item was handed over to police under proper evidence sealing protocol. That same afternoon, Detective Okada and a forensic technician arrived at the temporary command post near the bay for a preliminary examination. They noted the scarf's color and pattern matched the housekeeper's description of the one Eva often wore when going out. A fabric sample was cut and sent to the Honolulu lab for fiber analysis and DNA testing. 2 days later, the initial forensic report confirmed the fabric was a special synthetic silk, the same type Eva had purchased at a local boutique. Tucked in the folds were 2 long brown hairs, with thickness and pigment matching the sample provided by the housekeeper. Preliminary comparison allowed a high probability that the scarf belonged to the victim. However, its discovery at Makapu'u raised suspicions, as according to the Coast Guard's current map, an object drifting from Kailua could not naturally reach that point. Wind and flow directions on the day of the disappearance pointed north, while Makapu'u was to the south. This ruled out the scarf being accidentally swept from the beach Eva frequented. The discovery site's terrain also drew attention. The cliff ledge where the item was snagged had no pedestrian access and was not on any common entry route. During the scene survey, forensics found no additional signs, no drag marks on the rocks, no other fabric fibers or shoe prints. Sand and salt samples adhering to the scarf were sent for further analysis to determine seawater exposure time. Preliminary results indicated the item had been in the water for less than 48 hours. That meant the scarf appeared at Makapu'u at least 1 to 2 days after Eva's disappearance. The time and location discrepancy raised questions that the item may have been placed there rather than drifting naturally. In the report to superiors, Okada noted, "Scarf highly likely belongs to victim, but discovery location and current conditions incompatible with accident hypothesis. Need to verify evidence transport origin." The internal meeting that day concluded temporarily. No evidence supported drowning or random accident. The scarf's appearance, instead of clarifying the disappearance, made the case more perplexing. By the end of the week, the evidence was stored in the Honolulu PD evidence room with its own designation code. In the final summary of this phase, Okada remarked briefly, "First recovered evidence confirms victim left the home area, but provides no indication of the cause or endpoint of her journey." After the forensic results on the scarf were released, the investigation team shifted focus to verifying Hal Kane's statement, the husband and the last witness to see Eva before her disappearance. Detective Ryan Okada scheduled a formal session at the Honolulu PD headquarters, requiring Hal to provide his full itinerary for May 8th. In his initial statement, Hal said he left home at 8 a.m. to attend a real estate business conference at the Ala Moana Hotel in Honolulu. He claimed to have been there all day, attending 3 discussion sessions, and returned to Kailua around 5 p.m. Okada requested verification through the hotel's security camera system, which recorded Hal appearing in the main lobby at 9:10 a.m., present at a lunchtime session, and leaving the building at 4:20 p.m. This data contradicted the time he claimed to have left home, as the drive from Kailua to Honolulu takes just over 30 minutes, meaning he could not have arrived at the hotel before 9 a.m. if he had left at 8 a.m., as stated. When questioned again, Hal explained that he might have misremembered the time because he stopped for coffee that morning. Though minor, this discrepancy drew the investigators' attention, as it fell precisely within the window when Eva was last recorded on neighborhood cameras. Beyond the timeline issue, the team reviewed Hal's financial situation. The Economic Crimes Unit confirmed he owned 3 small real estate companies, but 2 were struggling due to a market downturn. Tax records showed a sharp revenue decline over the past 2 years and multiple unpaid mortgage loans. While checking Eva's insurance policies, Okada discovered a life insurance contract worth $6 million, with Hal as the sole beneficiary, signed just 8 months before Eva's disappearance. The policy was purchased through a financial brokerage introduced by one of Hal's acquaintances. When asked, he claimed buying the insurance was standard business practice to secure family finances and denied any connection to the disappearance. The investigators noted his unnaturally calm demeanor. Several employees at Pacific Development, where Hal was the owner, reported during interviews that he had recently appeared stressed about unrecovered investments and frequently complained about liquidity shortages. One accountant recounted that he had requested a large advance from project funds, something that had never happened before. Though there was no evidence of severe financial crisis, multiple signs indicated he was under economic pressure. Okada noted in the report that the financial details needed cross-referencing with the insurance policy to assess possible motive. However, call history records showed Hal's phone was active continuously throughout the morning and afternoon, with calls from the hotel matching event times. partially supporting his spatial alibi. No direct evidence placed him in Kailua when Eva vanished. Nevertheless, the timeline contradictions and potential economic motive kept him from being cleared. By the end of the week, Hal Kane's personal file was labeled Person of Interest in the investigation system, meaning a notable individual of concern, but not yet a suspect. In the evaluation summary, Okada concluded, subject's alibi is partially confirmed, but not absolute. Financial factors and insurance benefits suggest possible motive. Further monitoring of economic activities and personal relationships required. With that brief conclusion, Hal Kane's name was officially added to the list of individuals under special surveillance in the Kailua disappearance case. After completing the verification of Hal Kane's statement and financial status, the investigation team decided to conduct another search of the couple's home. The reason given was that during the initial inspection, investigators had only performed a general observation and had not applied advanced forensic measures. This time, a team of technicians from the Honolulu Crime Lab was mobilized, equipped with blood detection scanners, biological trace detectors, and chemical surface testing tools. The search began early in the morning under the direct supervision of Detective Ryan Okada. The Kane family home was located about 300 meters from the shoreline, a two-story wooden house with a cement-paved backyard, leading to a small coconut grove. The technical team divided into three groups, one scanning the ground floor, one checking the upper floor, and the last focusing on the porch and backyard. Every item in the house was photographed, numbered and sealed if suspicious. After more than 2 hours, the team working on the back porch discovered two notable items: a white bath towel folded haphazardly, and a latex glove dropped near the steps. Both were obscured by a large potted plant and may have been overlooked during the previous search. The bath towel had a few yellowish stains along the edge, unclear whether from dampness or another substance. The latex glove was clear white, the type used in medical or cleaning contexts, covered in a thin layer of dust but not deteriorated. Both items were sealed on site and sent immediately to the lab. Beyond these two pieces of evidence, the technical team found no additional signs of forced entry or foreign objects. Household items remained in place with no signs of disturbance. However, when using protein detection solution on the kitchen floor and porch area, the equipment detected several faint fluorescent spots, possibly bodily fluid traces that had been cleaned. Those locations were marked on the scene map for further testing. 3 days later, preliminary forensic results were returned. DNA analysis on the bath towel revealed only Eva Kane's genetic markers. No foreign DNA, blood, or male cells were found. For the latex glove, the inner surface had a very small biological sample, but it matched Eva's DNA in the form of epithelial cells. This made it difficult for the team to determine significance. The glove could have been used by Eva in daily activities or worn by someone who then contacted her. Still, what caught Okada's attention was the condition of the evidence. Both the towel and glove were unusually clean for an open porch environment and showed no weathering consistent with nearly 2 weeks since the disappearance. In the technical report, the forensic team noted the possibility that the backyard area had been cleaned with high-pressure water. Some stains on the cement had circular, even spreading patterns, unlike natural rain marks. Under UV light, the cement surface showed uneven reflective areas, commonly seen when organic compounds are removed with chemicals. This assessment led Okada to add to the file possibility of surface cleaning shortly after the victim's disappearance. Though not conclusive as evidence of scene tampering, this discovery was considered the first step showing the house was not entirely clean, as initial reports suggested. In the end-of-day debrief, investigators reviewed scene photos and agreed on next steps. Though the forensic results did not provide direct evidence, the existence of overlooked items combined with possible cleaning activity warranted re-evaluating all assumptions about Eva's disappearance. Before leaving the scene, Okada jotted in his notebook, towel, glove, cement, 3 small details that may be the beginning of the missing story. With that observation, the Kane home was temporarily sealed for 2 days to complete evidence storage procedures before being returned to the owner. While the evidence from the Kane home was undergoing further analysis, Detective Ryan Okada revisited the witness statement about the strange man seen in the neighborhood the morning Eva Kane disappeared. This was one of the few leads that could expand the investigation beyond the family. The witness was Rebecca Lim, who lived 2 houses from the Kanes, and had stated during initial questioning that she saw a gray-haired man wearing glasses standing near the Kane fence that morning. Her statement was fully documented, but had not been corroborated with specific imagery. This time, Okada brought in a composite sketch artist from the crime lab to work directly with the witness. Lim described the man as over 50, average height, short salt and pepper hair, thin face, metal-framed glasses, neatly dressed but not in work clothes. She remembered clearly because he was holding a stack of papers resembling flyers, constantly looking around the house, and at one point standing close to the fence. When she went into the yard, he turned away and walked toward the parking lot near the park. Based on the description, the artist completed the first composite sketch in 2 hours. The drawing depicted a middle-aged man with a stern expression, glasses, salt and pepper hair, and a slightly pointed chin. After confirmation by the witness, the sketch was printed and distributed as flyers in the Kailua neighborhood, sent to nearby police stations, docks, and the fish market. Online posts with the sketch were also uploaded to the Honolulu PD website. During the first week, dozens of calls came in, mostly mistaken identities or unverified information. No one could confirm knowing or having seen anyone matching the description. When flyer distribution yielded no results, Okada expanded verification to areas Hal Kane frequented. During this process, a new lead emerged from the Alawai Yacht Harbor in Honolulu. A security guard there, Robert Ayono, said he recognized the sketch from the flyer and believed he had seen a similar man at the harbor in the month before Eva's disappearance. According to him, the man appeared a few times in the afternoon, often walking along the dock where Hal rented a boat slip. He was alone, sometimes observing the area before leaving, without providing contact information. Amyo noted he stood out because he didn't fit the regular crowd, no fishing gear, no boat keys. When asked, the man briefly said he was looking for a friend, but gave no name. This information was documented in detail and compared with Hal's activity timeline. Harbor records confirmed Kane had a permanent slip rental and visited 2 to 3 times per week on average. However, no evidence showed he ever met the described individual. The harbor's security camera data, retained only for 6 months, had long been deleted, making visual verification impossible. Still, the guard's account was deemed reliable. Amyo had worked there over 10 years and habitually noted unusual events in his shift log. An entry dated April 17, 2010, read unknown gray-haired male, glasses around slip, 27B, identity unclear. 27B was the exact dock where Hal Kane's boat was moored. This supplemental report was forwarded to the Regional Investigation Office for cross-referencing with residency records, but it matched no names or descriptions in local worker or resident lists. The strange man's appearance at both the home and Hal's marina added layers of suspicion to the case. Okada proposed 2 possibilities: either he was connected to Hal's business dealings or someone surveilling Eva. Without direct data, however, the theories remained speculative. In the summary to superiors, Okada wrote, "Witness confirms unknown male near victim's home and husband's marina. Identity, purpose, or connection to involved parties not established. Recommend continued monitoring and entry of composite into regional identification system." The sketch was officially filed under Code C-47/2010 with the note, "Unidentified subject. Potential contact in Eva Kane disappearance." After the search for the unknown man yielded no concrete results, the investigation team turned back to Hal Kane's financial records to clarify the potential economic motive previously raised. At Detective Ryan Okada's request, the Hawaii Department of Taxation and the Business Audit Office provided detailed data on the finances of Hal's companies over the past 3 years. The report showed his business structure included 3 subsidiaries in commercial real estate, construction, and property leasing. Though still nominally operational, 2 of the 3 had consecutive losses, owed multiple short-term investment loans, including personal loans secured by family assets. Outstanding debt was estimated at over $4 million, while actual revenue from delayed projects stagnated due to the real estate market slowdown. Some assets had been transferred in 2009, but payment records remained incomplete. While reviewing bank transactions, the team discovered multiple transfers between Hal's personal accounts and a company called Pacific Realty Group. Notably, this company was registered under Karen Scott as director. Karen was identified as Eva Kane's longtime close friend and a former collaborator on several of Hal's investment projects. Among the transactions were payments labeled consulting fees, totaling hundreds of thousands of dollars, occurring continuously from late 2009 to mid-May 2010. One particularly large transfer of $250,000 was made just 1 week after Eva's disappearance. No contracts or consulting memos accompanied these payments. Okada requested the legal department to cross-check business registration records and found Pacific Realty was not among Kane's strategic partners. This made the financial transactions between the 2 entities irregular. When questioned, Kane's former accountant stated that Karen Scott had been hired by Hal as a temporary commercial real estate market consultant, but the contract ended the previous year. Afterward, he continued transferring fees to her under the pretext of project analysis support, but no documentation or deliverables were ever submitted. Beyond payments to Pacific Realty, the audit report also revealed Hal had withdrawn large sums of cash in the 2 months before Eva's disappearance. Over $180,000 was withdrawn in multiple transactions from personal accounts with no evidence of lawful use. Some was deposited into business accounts, the rest had no traceable destination. Credit card data also reflected financial irregularity, multiple late payments, accruing interest, and overuse of credit limits. In parallel, police investigated the personal relationships among Hal, Eva, and Karen. According to mutual friends, Karen Scott had been close to the Kanes for over a decade, having worked together in real estate development. Eva often described Karen as trustworthy, but some business associates noted they had observed a relationship between Hal and Karen that went beyond professional boundaries. Though no evidence of conflict existed, their closeness after Eva's disappearance was mentioned in several interviews. When summoned to provide information about transactions with Hal, Karen confirmed receiving consulting fees but claimed they were legitimate payments for prior projects. She refused to discuss work details, citing business confidentiality obligation. Okada noted Karen's responses were inconsistent. She asserted the payments were formal contracts, yet produced no accounting documents or receipts. This was clearly stated in the internal investigation report, with the assessment: financial transactions between Hal Kane and Karen Scott lack valid documentation, possibility of purposes beyond business. By the end of this phase, the financial picture surrounding the Kane family grew complex: a husband under debt pressure, consecutively loss-making companies, a $6 million life insurance policy on his wife, and large transactions with his closest female associate. Though no direct evidence linked these to the disappearance, the figures and their timing could not be ignored. In the final note of this investigation segment, Okada concluded, need to evaluate the financial and personal relationship between Hal Kane and Karen Scott as a critical variable in the case. Post-disappearance consulting fees payments may indicate concealment or compensation for undisclosed activities. With this note, the investigation officially shifted from individual scope to financial motive, economic incentive identified as the core focus for clarification. After the financial connections between Hal Kane and Karen Scott were established, the investigation team decided to summon Karen to clarify her role in the relationship with the Kane family, as well as the suspicious transactions occurring after Eva's disappearance. The first session was held at the Honolulu PD office, attended by Detective Ryan Okada and 2 economic investigators. Karen Scott, 45, arrived on time, dressed neatly, with a calm voice and initially cooperative attitude. When asked to detail her itinerary for May 8, 2010, she stated she was on Maui working with a local real estate partner. According to her, the trip was pre-planned and lasted 2 days. However, when police requested verifying evidence, such as plane tickets, hotel receipts, or witnesses to confirm her presence, Karen provided none. Hotel booking records on the island for that period also showed no trace of her name. This left her claimed location on the morning of Eva's disappearance unverified. The team simultaneously checked communication data. Carrier records showed Karen's cell phone was active normally on the evening of May 7, but was completely turned off, starting at 8:15 a.m. the next day, precisely within the window when Eva left home and vanished. The signal reactivated in early afternoon, after news of the disappearance began spreading in the Kailua neighborhood. When asked for an explanation, Karen said her phone battery died and she forgot her charger while traveling to another island. This was deemed unconvincing, as location data showed the device's last signal near eastern Oʻahu, not Maui. Okada noted in the minutes, statement on location and timing inconsistent with technical data. Another notable detail was that Karen had been given supervisory authority by Eva Kane over certain assets in real estate projects, including a spare key to the main Kailua home for easy access to files and documents. When questioned, she confirmed this and said she only used the key for work and never entered the house outside business hours. However, the fact that an outsider had a spare key prompted the team to question whether she could have been at the scene before or after Eva's disappearance. In the personal relationship section, Karen emphasized that her connection with Hal was strictly professional. She described Eva as a good friend, occasionally with differing opinions, and denied any conflicts. When asked why Hal continued transferring money to her after Eva's disappearance, Karen said it was payment for pending work, but could not provide documentation. Okada recorded that throughout the session, she maintained an even tone, evaded emotional questions, and often responded with vague phrases like, "don't remember clearly," "possibly," or "not sure." When investigators proposed she sign a cooperation agreement to provide further financial information, Karen abruptly changed her demeanor. She stated her private attorney had advised against continuing without legal representation. After a brief phone call, she declared the session over, invoking her right to remain silent. The minutes concluded, informant refuses further cooperation until legal counsel is present. Immediately after the interview, Okada held an internal team meeting. He assessed that Karen Scott's statement contained multiple red flags: lack of evidence confirming her whereabouts, phone turned off during the critical window, and irregular financial ties with Hal. Though no incriminating evidence existed yet, these factors made her the most likely involved party outside the husband. In the phase summary report, Okada wrote, Karen Scott, victim's close friend, husband's financial partner, holds house key, and unverified absence during disappearance timeframe. Continued monitoring and evidence collection required to determine her actual role. This concise assessment was added to the master file, officially marking Karen Scott's entry into the primary suspect list for the Eva Kane disappearance. After more than 6 months of continuous investigation, the Eva Kane disappearance case entered a deadlock phase. All leads collected from physical evidence and witnesses to financial data remained at the suspicion level without converting to legal proof. Police had interviewed over 20 people and searched dozens of kilometers of Kailua shoreline, but found no trace of Eva, no body or direct evidence she had left the island. Additional tests on evidence from the Kane home only repeated old results. DNA solely from the victim, no signs of struggle or third-party presence. By early 2011, the case was officially classified as lacking feasible data for further investigation. During this time, Hal Kane stayed in Kailua for a few more months before moving to California. He did not remarry or resume prior social activities. When contacted by local media, Hal consistently declined interviews, saying only that everything has been handled by police. Several acquaintances noted he appeared weary with noticeably declining health, but continued managing remaining business operation. Police maintained periodic contact for information verification, but no new data emerged. Financial reviews extending into 2012 showed Hal had liquidated most Hawaii assets and transferred remaining company shares, severing all economic ties there. In the Honolulu PD's 2010-2013 aggregated report, the Eva Kane case was categorized as missing with undetermined cause, alongside other unresolved victim cases. The team had proposed deep-water sonar surveys at Makapu, but high costs and low success probability led to cancellation. Personnel were gradually reassigned to other cases, and the Kane file was maintained only at periodic review level. The final system update before temporary closure was in September 2013, noting no significant progress. In 2016, news of Hal Kane's death from cardiac arrest at his San Diego home reached Honolulu PD. The event was briefly noted in the file, ending any possibility of direct questioning the closest involved party. His family held a private memorial with no mention of Eva's disappearance. Hal's death nearly erased the case from public memory. By late 2017, under regulations for handling old files, the Eva Kane case was officially transferred to the Honolulu Criminal Investigation Division's Cold Case Unit for archiving. Original documents, evidence, photos, and biological samples were resealed, recoded, and placed in a secure storage vault. The electronic case status was updated: missing person, suspicious circumstances, unresolved. The final report, signed by Detective Ryan Okada, summarized briefly: victim not located, no confirmed criminal evidence, no new witnesses, current investigative paths exhausted. After completing the handover, Okada transferred from the missing persons unit to another department, closing nearly 6 years pursuing a case without answers. For Hawaii Police, the Eva Kane case became a typical long-term unsolved disappearance: no body, no departure signs, no final conclusion. From then on, Eva Kane's name appeared only sporadically on lists of unresolved cases, buried among hundreds of dusty files in the Honolulu PD's cold storage vault. 10 years after the Eva Kane disappearance file was archived, a policy change in the Honolulu Police Department's investigative approach created new opportunities for unsolved cases. In 2020, the Cold Case Division was re-established to review cases with preserved biological evidence for application of trace DNA technology, a new method capable of detecting cellular traces from just a few remaining molecules. In the initial sorting, the Eva Kane file was selected due to well-preserved original samples, including the latex glove and bath towel recovered from the victim's home in 2010. The case lead was Detective Naomi Torres, a younger generation investigator in the unit. She had a forensic background and prior involvement in national lab collaborations. Reviewing the entire old file, Torres noted the Eva Kane case met 3 criteria for retesting biologically sourced evidence: samples stored under stable cold conditions, and no legal closure. In her first note to superiors, she wrote concisely, "This is a disappearance with signs of scene tampering. Original samples may hold untapped information inaccessible to prior technology." In June 2020, the samples were transferred to the department's new Pearl City lab, equipped with high-sensitivity DNA amplification systems. Analysis was conducted under strict contamination controls. Priority was given to the latex glove, the only item likely to contain a second person's cells. The 2010 report had identified only Eva's DNA, but Torres noted the glove's inner surface had an unexamined area due to quantities too low for then-current technology. With new equipment, technicians could isolate and replicate previously overlooked trace DNA sequences. After over a week, preliminary results revealed, beyond Eva's DNA, another cellular trace: female gender. Though the sample was faint, basic genetic markers confirmed it was neither Eva's nor any forensic staff who handled the evidence. The lab classified it as a foreign partial female profile, an unidentified woman's genetic record with direct contact to the glove. Torres reviewed the full list of individuals potentially linked to the scene, including the housekeeper, investigators' friends, and Kane family associates. After excluding those with documented legitimate access to the home, Only one remained with possible pre-disappearance evidence access: Karen Scott. This discovery prompted the case's official reopening. Torres' re-examination report stated clearly, presence of non-victim female DNA proves at least 2 women involved at the scene. No prior file data explains this presence. She also proposed rescanning all archived evidence with new technology for additional biological traces. The Eva Kane case reactivation was approved by the Cold Case Unit commander. A small 3-person investigation team was formed, with Torres as lead coordinator. They began reconstructing the event sequence from old data, re-examining original scene photos and statements. The overview report was updated with a single goal: identify the second woman in the DNA sample. For Torres, this was not just technical work, but a test of next-generation investigative tools. In an internal note dated August 4, 2020, she wrote, "Cold cases rarely lack data. They lack the right tools to reread it. Trace DNA lets us hear the echo old technology couldn't capture." When results were shared internally, the Eva Kane case officially moved from passive archive to reopened investigation. The 400-plus page file, silent for a decade, was placed back on Torres's desk. She reorganized all evidence, created timelines, circled key events, especially May 8, 2010, 8:30 to 10:15 a.m., and wrote in red ink at the top of the first page, "There was another woman there." After trace DNA testing confirmed another woman's presence at the scene, Detective Naomi Torres expanded review of all old file imagery. She believed, if a second person was involved, at least one neighborhood camera must have captured a sign. Since 2010 video originals remained only in low quality, Torres collaborated with the department's digital unit to restore footage using 3D scene reconstruction software. This technology recreated space from fixed camera angles, stitched blurry frames, and simulated real-time motion. Work began with the 6 video segments archived from neighboring homes around the Kane residence. Each was processed and time-synced to form a comprehensive morning sequence for May 8, 2010. In the reconstructed model, Torres could view the entire neighborhood from above, including the path to the beach, fence, front yard, and opposite houses. In the clip, previously showing only a figure identified as Eva Kane, new software enhanced contrast and lighting, revealing motion at frame edges. After multiple adjustments, Torres uncovered a detail absent from old reports. At 9:06 a.m., as Eva passed the main intersection, a second figure appeared across the street. This person was shorter than Eva, wore light-colored clothing and a hat, and moved slowly in the opposite direction along the Kane fence. At low resolution, the figure was just a moving light streak, but motion analysis confirmed a real person, not image noise. Torres isolated the frame, processed it second by second, then compared it to witness Rebecca Lim's prior description of a gray-haired man near the fence. However, the silhouette did not match a male: light gait, short steps, narrow shoulders, height around 5'3". In the 3D model, the second figure's path showed emergence from behind the Kane home, exiting a side gate, pausing near the intersection, then leaving the frame toward a small road west of the neighborhood. The entire motion lasted under 2 minutes, aligning with Eva's phone signal loss at 10:10 a.m. per old reports. Though facial identification was impossible, body outline and movement provided relatively accurate morphological data. Torres submitted stride length, body tilt, and motion frequency parameters to the digital unit's gait recognition specialist. Analysis revealed distinctive traits: right foot slightly turned out, low center of gravity, steady pace, details usable for comparison with other videos. She searched personnel files for 2010 interview footage. Only Karen Scott matched the height and gait parameters. For verification, Torres extracted 2009 video from a business event Karen attended with Hal Kane. Technical gait comparison between the 2009 event clip and the 2010 reconstructed segment showed over 87% match, a figure considered consistent in imaging investigations. This indicated a high probability the second figure near the scene the morning Eva vanished was Karen Scott. The new finding was added to an expanded investigation report titled Reconstructed Imagery Supplement, Second Person in Kailua Area. In the conclusion, Torres wrote, reconstructed video data shows a woman with height, gait proportions, and movement direction consistent with Karen Scott's physical profile. Timestamp aligns with victim's phone signal loss. Combined with trace DNA results, probability of Scott's presence at the scene on the morning of May 8, 2010 is very high. By linking forensic technology and digital image analysis, Naomi Torres recreated part of a morning scene that a decade earlier seemed permanently erased. The old blurry photos, once deemed worthless, now became the starting point for an entirely new investigative direction. After analyzing the reconstructed imagery and determining Karen Scott's likely presence in Kailua on the morning of May 8, 2010, Detective Naomi Torres expanded the investigation into financial records to bolster the motive hypothesis. She requested the Financial Crimes Unit's assistance in re-extracting Eva Kane's life insurance file and post-disappearance transactions. From Pacific Mutual's archived data, Torres confirmed how Kane received a $3 million payout in September 2010 after Eva was declared missing under unclear circumstances. Accompanying bank reports showed just 1 week after disbursement, Hal transferred $1 million to Pacific Realty Group, Karen Scott's company, labeled Project Expense Reimbursement. No supporting contracts or invoices existed for this transaction. Torres reviewed the notes in Detective Okada's old file and realized that this transaction had been mentioned but lacked sufficient data to determine its nature. Now, with the new chain of evidence from DNA and imagery, that payment became a notable link. She worked with the intermediary bank to trace the money flow, discovering that Pacific Realty's receiving account was nearly fully withdrawn in cash within 3 days of the transfer. There were no records of redeposits into other accounts or corresponding tax reports. This suggested the funds may have been used off the books or for personal purposes. During further review, Torres stumbled upon an overlooked detail in the 2011 media file. A Honolulu Herald reporter had forwarded police a copy of an anonymous email over 400 words long sent to the newspaper's public address, claiming to be from Eva Kane's former lover. The message described Eva as a liar, exploiting men, and asserted her ending was her own doing. The tone was highly aggressive, interspersed with private details only someone close would know, such as Eva's dissatisfaction with the Kailua home, or frequent arguments with Hal over money. At the time, police dismissed it as a malicious prank, but Torres deemed it worth re-examining. She submitted a technical request to the department's cybersecurity unit to trace the email's original IP. Though the newspaper's storage system had changed, the tech team recovered metadata from the old copy. Results showed the email originated from a Kakodako, Honolulu IP on the evening of March 12, 2011. Cross-referencing public address lists, the IP matched an internet cafe in a building leased by Pacific Realty Group as a branch office. Leasing records confirmed Karen Scott was the company's legal representative at the time and frequently worked there. For clarity, Torres enlisted a forensic linguist to analyze the email content using authorship identification methods. The report indicated native English speaker style, female gender, with exclamatory sentence structures and business vernacular phrases. Expressions like, "to be frank with you" or "she had it coming," matched language patterns in emails. Karen sent Hal per old financial records. Statistical analysis showed 84% similarity in grammar and word choice, sufficient to conclude a high probability of the same author. Torres noted in the internal report, 2011 anonymous email sent from IP, owned by Pacific Realty. Linguistic analysis identifies female author with style consistent with Karen Scott's documents. Content aims to defame victim and steer public opinion toward angry lover's hypothesis. Likely diversion tactic. The anonymous email discovery not only strengthened the hypothesis of Karen's involvement, but also revealed proactive efforts to manipulate public perception of the disappearance. In the report to superiors, Torres concluded that 3 factors, post-insurance financial transaction, non-victim female DNA on evidence, and the email's origin, formed a logical chain, demonstrating the same individual's presence and actions in both phases, before and after Eva Kane vanished. She ended the summary with a brief note: economic motive and concealment behavior converging on a single point. After establishing the linked data chain between financial transactions, the anonymous email, and DNA traces, Detective Naomi Torres expanded the investigation to Pacific Realty Group's facilities, operated by Karen Scott. A copy of a 2011 tax-filed warehouse lease contract in Lahaina, Maui, was found. This contract had never been mentioned in prior investigations, and according to the building owner, the warehouse had been vacant for years. Torres believed it could be a storage site for hidden evidence or documents, so she prepared a search warrant application. After regional prosecutor approval, she and 2 cold case division agents flew to Maui for the search. The warehouse was in a small industrial area on Lahaina's outskirts, about 3 kilometers from town center. The rusted lock and faded company sign indicated long disuse. As the team forced the door, a musty, dusty smell escaped. The narrow interior, around 30 square meters, held stacked cardboard boxes, metal shelves, and a few suitcases. Most boxes were loosely sealed, containing office documents and old Pacific Realty project files. However, in the far corner behind a leaning metal shelf, Torres discovered a medium-sized suitcase of synthetic leather with embossed brown patterns and gold trim. On the faded handle tag remained the letters EEK. She paused to photograph, number the evidence, then opened the suitcase in the presence of forensic staff. Inside was a large plastic bag containing women's clothing, including a pale green dress, thin scarf, and beige leather shoes, all matching the description of Eva Kane's outfit on the morning of her disappearance. The fabrics were dusty with dark stains along lower edges. Upon close inspection, technicians found small dried brown streaks, like old blood in the clothing folds. Samples were taken and sealed on site. At the suitcase bottom was a shrunken latex glove, white turned yellowish. Torres requested detailed photos, then sealed it separately for later analysis. The entire suitcase and contents were flown back to the Honolulu lab that night. Subsequent analysis reports confirmed Torres's findings as critical evidence. The DNA lab compared the dried blood sample to Eva Kane's 2010 genetic profile, yielding a perfect match. Despite the tiny quantity, genetic markers confirmed the victim's biological origin. This was the first time in over a decade police had direct physical proof Eva was deceased, not merely missing. The suitcase latex glove was analyzed separately. Results showed identical structure and size to the glove recovered from the Kane home in the initial investigation. Same brand, size, and polymer material. A small fine fabric fiber on the glove was identified as from the bath towel seized at the 2010 scene. This match created a unified chain linking the home scene, old evidence, and the newly found suitcase. Torres immediately cross-referenced timelines. Per the warehouse lease, Pacific Realty began using the Lahaina site in April 2010, 1 month before Eva's disappearance, and maintained it until 2013, when the company ceased operations. The suitcase bearing the victim's initials, stored in a facility under Karen Scott's management, virtually eliminated coincidence. In the report to the prosecutor, Torres wrote, "Evidence found at Lahaina warehouse includes clothing, shoes, and personal items matching victim's disappearance day description. Dried blood in suitcase matches Eva Kane's DNA. Latex glove in suitcase identical to evidence from Kane home. All point to one conclusion: victim deceased, with evidence directly linked to Pacific Realty. Business operated by Karen Scott." Forensics added that clothing preservation indicated intentional storage in a dry environment, not drifting or discard. The dried blood formed from direct contact with an absorbent surface, likely during transport of an injured body. Additionally, dust and soil particles from the suitcase bottom showed mineral composition characteristic of Kailua, not Lahaina, proving the suitcase was at the disappearance site before being moved to another island. As analysis results were compiled, the Cold Case Division held a closed meeting to assess legal implications. Torres detailed the full evidence chain: female DNA in glove, reconstructed imagery with second figure, anonymous email from Pacific Realty office, to the suitcase with victims' items and blood. She concluded that with tight interconnections, the case was no longer an undetermined disappearance, but a criminal case involving homicide and concealment. In the final search phase summary, Torres wrote, "Lahaina suitcase is the missing piece in the entire event chain. It proves Eva Kane is dead and shows final physical evidence was moved by someone aware of that fact." Immediately after Lahaina warehouse analysis confirmation, Detective Naomi Torres drafted an urgent report to cold case leadership and the Honolulu prosecutor's office, requesting Karen Scott's summons for supplemental questioning. The interview occurred at Honolulu PD headquarters in late September 2021, with 2 investigators and a supervising prosecutor present. Karen received a summons stating clarify information related to new evidence and appeared with her private attorney. The session began at 9 a.m. in Interrogation Room 3. Torres briefly outlined the case reopening and showed Karen photos of the suitcase, clothing, and shoes from the Pacific Realty warehouse. When the green dress image appeared on screen, Karen paused briefly but quickly regained composure, saying she knew nothing about them and denied storing Eva's belongings. Torres remained silent, noting then presented a copy of the Lahaina warehouse lease signed by Karen as company director. Karen appeared flustered, claiming the warehouse was only for accounting records and may have been used by others after company dissolution. When asked why Eva's missing persons items were in her managed warehouse, Karen did not answer, saying only someone might have brought them later. Torres shifted to scientific evidence. She placed DNA analysis copies before Karen, stating the suitcase dried blood matched Eva Kane, and a latex piece had traces identical to the Kane home glove. Karen's attorney requested a private break, but Torres denied suspension as the session remained standard confrontation. When resumed, Karen shifted tone, no longer fully denying but redirecting her statement. She said she was indeed in Kailua on the morning of May 8, 2010, but only stopped by to pick up project documents at Hal Kane's request. According to her, Hal called early, saying Eva felt unwell and wanted a few days' rest, asking her to deliver papers for his signature before leaving. Karen claimed Eva was still home upon arrival, calm, and seemingly preparing to go somewhere. When Torres asked specifically where Eva went, and by what means, Karen vaguely replied, Hal said Eva wanted a short resort stay, but did not know the exact location. Torres asked why Karen's phone was off from 8 a.m. to noon that day. She responded lost signal and forgot to charge. The investigator presented printed location data showing her phone connected to a Kailua tower at 9:20 a.m. None from Maui as previously claimed. Karen viewed the document but offered no further comment. When asked why non-victim female DNA was on the Kane home glove, she said, "Don't know," and suggested maybe Eva wore it. Torres briefly noted in minutes, witness continues evading, no reasonable explanation for own presence at scene and evidence. Toward the session's end, Torres shifted to personal relations between Karen and Hal. She asked about the $1 million transfer from Hal's account to Pacific Realty post-disappearance. Karen initially said, work payment, but upon seeing the signed transfer copy, admitted no formal contract existed, only repayment of expenses Hal owed. Torres asked, why did he owe you exactly $1 million, 1/3 his wife's insurance value? Karen was silent for a while, then softly said, Hal said he'd arrange it, I didn't ask details. In the final part, Torres showed an enlarged still from the 2010 reconstructed video, the shorter woman's silhouette moving opposite Eva from the house. When asked if she recognized the figure, Karen glanced and said, I don't know who that is. The image is too blurry to confirm. The response was short, but her expression showed clear tension. Torres reported, subject reacted strongly to image, Nonverbal signs indicate hesitation. The interview ended after over 3 hours. Karen left with her attorney, refusing to sign the confirmation minutes, citing review with counsel. In the internal leadership summary, Torres wrote, Karen Scott admits presence in Kailua on victim disappearance morning. Claim of taking Eva for short rest at Hal's request unsupported by independent evidence. Subject avoids key questions on timing, transport, and evidence. Recommend continued financial and movement monitoring to determine involvement level. This note marked the first time in over a decade the primary suspect in the Eva Kane case was clearly identified through her own words. After the initial Karen Scott interview, Detective Naomi Torres recognized the need to bolster objective evidence to verify statement accuracy. She focused on 2 directions: location data and new witnesses. First was checking the GPS device in the 2010 Lexus RX Karen used. Per registration records, the vehicle belonged to Pacific Realty, but was operated under Karen's name. Torres contacted the manufacturer for archived data, and surprisingly, the original GPS system retained recoverable information via backup servers due to periodic maintenance connections. After 2 weeks of technical coordination, the manufacturer provided a historical location file remnant from May 2010 via automatic backups. When the technical unit recovered and mapped the route, the map showed Karen's vehicle leaving Pacific Realty's Honolulu office on May 8 at 7:42 a.m., traveling via Pali Highway, and arriving in Kailua around 8:25, precisely before Eva Kane left home. The signal stopped near an area less than 200 meters from Eva's house, on the same road where witness Rebecca Lim saw a stranger near the fence. GPS recorded the vehicle there for nearly an hour, then departing toward Ala Yacht Harbor, stopping briefly and parking for about 20 minutes, before returning to Honolulu near noon. This data completely contradicted Karen's claim of being on Maui at the time. Torres immediately requested the extraction of the old security cameras from the yacht marina to verify the second data set. Although the original 2010 camera system had been replaced, the marina management company still retained a portion of compressed data on an old server for insurance purposes. The Cold Case Division's technical department proceeded with recovery, and in the blurry sequence of images from May 8, between 9:55 and 10:20, a light-colored SUV of the same type as Karen's vehicle appeared parked in Area 27, the exact birth location of Hal Kane that year. Although the license plate was not legible, the body features and the scratch on the rear bumper matched the registration images stored in the file. A woman in a light-colored top stepped out, walked toward the dock, then returned to the vehicle about 10 minutes later and drove away. This timing matched exactly with the moment Eva's phone signal disconnected. At the same time, Torres received information from a new witness source. When the case was publicly reopened in mid-2021, the Honolulu Police Department received a call from Linda Perez, currently residing in Kailua, but who had previously lived on the street adjacent to the Kane home. She stated that, on the morning Eva disappeared, while watering plants in her yard, she heard an argument between 2 women coming from the direction of the Kane house. The sounds were not clear enough to make out individual words, but the voices were high-pitched and lasted for a few minutes before suddenly stopping. She remembered the time as around 9:30 a.m., just before the sun became intense. When asked why she did not report it to the police at the time, she explained that she thought it was just a family dispute and did not pay attention. Her account was verified by cross-referencing utility records, showing she indeed lived at the adjacent address at that time, and the position of her yard faced directly toward the back fence of the Kane house, the same area where cement washing traces were discovered during the initial search. Torres documented the statement and showed Mrs. Perez identification photos of Karen Scott. She confirmed she did not see the faces of those arguing, but upon seeing Karen's photo, she said the hair and build are very similar to the figure she had glimpsed moving toward the side gate. Although the testimony could not be considered positive identification, the coincidence in timing, location, and characteristics made this information highly supportive. When all the data was compiled, Torres presented an internal report over 30 pages long. In it, she concluded that 1. Karen's vehicle GPS confirmed her presence in Kailua on the morning of May 8, 2010. 2. Marina camera footage captured the vehicle leaving the area only 20 minutes after Eva's phone signal cut off. 3. An independent witness heard an argument between 2 women at the victim's home during the same time frame. 3 separate data sources but aligned in time and space completely eliminated the possibility of coincidence. In the final remarks section, Torres wrote, "The supplemental digital and witness evidence solidly reinforces Karen Scott's presence in Kailua on the morning of May 8, 2010, as well as her connection to the location tied to Eva Kane's disappearance." The movement to the yacht marina immediately after the victim's phone signal loss indicates this was not coincidental behavior. Recommend preparing the file to request an arrest warrant for criminal investigation purposes. With that concluding line, 11 years after Eva disappeared, the case finally had sufficient physical, technical, and witness evidence to move to the decisive phase. After the digital evidence report was approved, the Honolulu Prosecutor's Office and Cold Case Division coordinated to obtain a formal arrest warrant for Karen Scott. On March 12, 2022, Hawaii police executed the plan in Kihei, Maui, where Karen was currently living. The warrant was served at 6 a.m. She was subdued at her residence without resistance. When the arrest warrant was read, Karen remained silent, only asking, "It's about Eva Kane, right?" That question was recorded verbatim in the scene report. The same day, she was transported to Honolulu via special flight for interrogation. The interrogation took place at Cold Case Division headquarters, attended by Detective Naomi Torres, a district prosecutor, and the defendant's appointed attorney. To start, Torres presented Karen's legal rights, then sequentially displayed the evidence: GPS location, marina footage, the suitcase found in the Lahaina storage, and DNA results. As the crime scene photos were shown, Karen bowed her head, hands clasped, showing no reaction. After nearly an hour of silence, she said softly, "None of us thought it would go this far." From there, the formal interrogation shifted to recording a statement. Karen admitted she was in Kailua on the morning of May 8, 2010, at Hal Kane's request. According to her account, Hal called her the previous evening, saying Eva was having psychological issues and he needed a trusted person to help persuade her to rest for a few days. He asked Karen to drive to the house, talk gently with Eva, and take her to a small rental property the Kane Company was managing near the beach to avoid pressure. Karen stated that when she arrived, Eva was suspicious, asking why Hal did not come himself. After some arguing, Eva agreed to go along, but insisted on bringing a few personal items. Karen recounted that they left the house around 9 a.m. and arrived at the nearby rental. There, the situation began to spiral out of control. Eva panicked, saying she did not want to stay and demanded to return. The two got into a scuffle. During the struggle at the door, Eva fell to the floor and lost consciousness. Karen said, "I just wanted her to calm down, but she kept thrashing." She stated that after a few minutes, Eva stopped breathing. She panicked, called Hal, and told him everything. According to her statement, Hal was silent for a moment, then said, "No one will believe you, we have to handle it now." From there, as Karen described, Hal instructed her to clean up everything. He arrived at the rental within half an hour, bringing large nylon bags and a pair of latex gloves. They placed Eva's body in the brown patterned suitcase, the same one later found in Lahaina. Hal said he would take care of the rest. Karen recounted, "He told me to go home and leave everything to him." She stated that Hal loaded the suitcase into the car, then drove toward the small harbor near Alawai Yacht Marina, where he usually kept his boat. She did not witness what happened next, but believed Hal disposed of the body at sea that night. When asked why she did not report to the police, Karen said Hal threatened to make her lose everything if she spoke. He promised to take care of her for life, and a few months later actually transferred $1 million to her from the insurance money. He said it was to keep me quiet and start over somewhere else. She left Oʻahu shortly after, rented storage in Lahaina, and kept the suitcase because she didn't dare throw it away, fearing discovery. When asked about the anonymous email in 2011, she admitted she wrote it. "I thought if the public believed Eva ran off with a lover, no one would mention the case again." Throughout the statement recording, Karen did not cry, only pausing occasionally to breathe. When Torres asked her greatest regret, she said, "I didn't know whether to call emergency or not. It all happened too fast, and I listened to Hal." The prosecutor followed up. "Did Hal specify what to do with the body?" Karen replied. "He said, 'Leave it to me, no one will find it.'" The 27-page interrogation transcript was completed at 6 p.m. that day, with signatures from Karen Scott and her representing attorney. In the remarks section, Torres noted, "Defendant admits presence in Kailua on morning of May 8, 2010, states Eva Kane died from asphyxiation during scuffle. Confirms Hal Kane directed staging of disappearance and body disposal." This statement aligned with the chain of technical, physical, and financial evidence collected, closing 12 years of uncertainty about Eva Kane's fate. As the session ended, Karen said one small sentence before being led to temporary detention. "Hal told me everything would sink with the waves, but the waves never stay quiet." Immediately after Karen Scott's statement was recorded and sealed, the Cold Case Division transferred the entire file along with related physical evidence to the Hawaii State Forensic Laboratory for the final comprehensive examination series. The goal was to authenticate the degree of alignment between the statement, physical evidence, and obtain biological data to complete the prosecution file. The analysis process was conducted under the direct supervision of Detective Naomi Torres and the Chief DNA Technician, Dr. Mark Liu. The first step was testing the hair strand found in Karen's clothing bag at the time of arrest. This hair, about 13 centimeters long, was stuck to the inside collar of the jacket Karen wore on the day of detention. Analysis results showed the nuclear DNA of the hair sample matched completely with Eva Kane's genetic profile stored in the database since 2010. According to expert evaluation, the probability of random match between two different individuals was 1 in 10 billion, completely ruling out error. The discovery of Eva's hair on Karen's jacket was direct biological evidence of physical contact between the two near the time of the victim's death. Next, the forensic team analyzed soil and sand samples adhering to the soles of Karen's shoes seized during her arrest in Kihei. Although over 10 years had passed, the old shoe soles she still kept in personal storage retained fine gray soil traces. When compared to soil taken from the Lahaina storage where the suitcase containing Eva's clothes was found, the lab confirmed complete compositional match. Specifically, the ratios of silica, calcium, and iron oxide in the samples reached 99.4% similarity, and the characteristic sodium chloride crystal form, unique to the coastal Lahaina area where salt spray penetrates the surface soil. This proved Karen's shoes had been present at the storage during the same period the suitcase was placed there, reinforcing her statement of transporting evidence to Maui under Hal Kane's direction. In parallel with physical tests, the experts cross-referenced Eva Kane's time of death based on protein degradation characteristics in the dried blood sample from the suitcase. Although the victim's body was never found, the molecular structure of hemoglobin in the sample allowed relative estimation of blood stain formation time. Based on oxidation ratio and pigment breakdown level, the forensic lab determined the blood stain formed approximately 12 years before discovery, with period plus 6 months error. Converted to the 2022 benchmark, the result pointed to the blood being created around May 2010, matching exactly with the time Karen stated the scuffle causing Eva's death occurred. For further reinforcement, Dr. Liu requested analysis of organic microparticles still adhering to the dress fabric and latex gloves. Under electron microscope, analysts detected a layer of small cellulose fibers containing plumeria pollen grains, a flower species growing densely around Kailua residential areas, but rare in Lahaina. This proved the suitcase and evidence had been in the Kane home area before transport to Maui, consistent with the sequence Karen described in her statement. Synthesizing the examination results, the final state forensic laboratory report stated clearly, All obtained biological and physical evidence supports the conclusion that victim Eva Kane died on the morning of May 8, 2010, in the Kalama area, Oʻahu Island. Victim's hair DNA found on suspect Karen Scott's jacket proves direct contact between the two. Soil sample from suspect's shoe soles matches completely with soil at Lahaina storage, where evidence containing victim's blood was kept. Hemoglobin molecular analysis determines blood stain formation time, consistent with disappearance timeline. No signs of post-event tampering with evidence. Upon reading the conclusion, Torres added a professional assessment section to the prosecutor's office. All scientific results are uniform with the defendant's voluntary statement. Genetic, physical, and chemical indicators prove the incident occurred exactly on the morning of May 8, 2010. No technical factors remain to deny or distort the described sequence. This forensic report became the foundation for the entire prosecution file, the first scientific evidence affirming time of death, related locations, and material connection between suspect and victim. When submitted to the chief prosecutor, Torres added the final note in her work log: after 12 years, science has given voice back to Eva Kane, not in words, but in traces that time cannot erase. In November 2022, the Eva Kane case was brought to public trial at the Honolulu Superior Court, ending over 12 years of silence and 4 years of persistent reinvestigation by the Cold Case Division. The large courtroom was arranged with tight security, attended by the state prosecutor, investigation team, victim's family, and media. Karen Scott was led into the courtroom in beige prison attire, her face gaunt but calm. Beside her was the appointed defense attorney. The investigators, including Detective Naomi Torres, sat in the witness rows. A heavy atmosphere enveloped the room as the judge read the case name, the State of Hawaii v. Karen Scott. In the opening, the chief prosecutor presented the indictment consisting of 2 charges: intentional manslaughter and insurance fraud with accomplice elements. The indictment, over 40 pages long, was based on all physical evidence, defendant's statement, and forensic examination results. In the initial presentation, the prosecutor summarized the incident. On the morning of May 8, 2010, defendant Karen Scott, together with Hal Kane, the victim's husband, planned to remove Eva Kane from the home, with the intent to stage a fake disappearance. During execution, the defendant caused the victim's death, then with the accomplice cleaned the scene, disposed of the body, and appropriated $3 million in insurance money. The prosecutor presented in chronological order, sequentially introducing key evidence. GPS data proving Karen's vehicle was in Kailua on the morning of the incident. Marina video footage capturing her vehicle appearing 20 minutes after Eva's phone signal disconnected. Victim hair DNA found on the defendant's jacket, soil samples on shoe soles matching the storage unit containing Eva's bloodied suitcase, and all financial documents showing insurance money flows to the Pacific Realty Company account operated by Karen. As images of the suitcase, clothes, and shoes were projected on the screen, the courtroom fell silent, with only the prosecutor's voice slowly reading each forensic result. The defense attorney attempted to argue that Karen's actions were accidental, without intent to kill, and that her assistance to Hal in handling the aftermath was due only to fear and threats. However, the prosecution countered that remaining silent for over a decade, concealing evidence, and sending anonymous letters to mislead the investigation clearly demonstrated conscious participation in criminal conduct. They also pointed out that Karen directly benefited from the insurance payout and used the money to rebuild a new life, showing the incident's purpose was not merely concealment, but also included economic exploitation. During the witness testimony phase, Naomi Torres was called as the primary witness, presenting the entire reinvestigation process. She described how trace DNA technology detected another female's cellular material on the gloves, how recovered image reconstruction revealed a second figure, and the process of locating the suitcase in the Lahaina storage. Media later described Torres's testimony as a report of science and perseverance, as she used no emotional language, only reading data excerpts until the judge called for a break. When asked one final time, Karen Scott unexpectedly requested permission to speak. Her voice was tired and soft. "I didn't mean to kill her. I was just doing what Hal told me. He said Eva would ruin everything if she left." She admitted all subsequent actions, from moving the suitcase to receiving insurance money, but insisted every decision was arranged by Hal. The judge called for order when she began to cry, the first time during the entire trial. The jury deliberated for 2 days. Upon returning to the courtroom, the verdict was read in the afternoon of November 18, 2022. The court declared Karen Scott guilty of intentional manslaughter and insurance fraud, with a combined sentence of 25 years imprisonment, no parole for the first 10 years. In the concluding remarks, the judge emphasized, "No circumstances justify taking a life and lying for over a decade. The truth ultimately emerges, regardless of time." The prosecution also announced supplemental investigation findings regarding Hal Kane. Based on Karen's statement, financial evidence, and indirect witnesses, Hal was identified as the mastermind who planned the scene staging and directed disposal. However, since he died in 2016, the court only recorded the legal conclusion, "Criminal liability terminates upon the subject's death." This line was read publicly in court as an official statement, closing the role of the man once considered a secondary victim for many years. As the judge struck the gavel to announce the sentence, Karen stood still, showing no reaction. In the back rows, Eva's family representative only slightly bowed their head. Naomi Torres looked around the courtroom, noting in her notebook the 2 words "case closed," but feeling no relief. Outside the court, media simultaneously reported, "Hawaii cold case solved." Karen Scott sentenced to 25 years, Hal Kane identified as mastermind. After more than 12 years, the Eva Kane case was officially closed where it began. Honolulu, Oʻahu Island, where a peaceful morning in 2010 became the starting point for one of Hawaii's most complex cold case files in state history. After the sentence was announced and the Eva Kane case officially closed, the Cold Case Division of the Honolulu Police Department released a comprehensive report, over 200 pages long, detailing the entire investigation, reinvestigation, and technical factors leading to the final outcome. This report not only documented the investigators' efforts over more than a decade, but was also regarded as a model document for handling cold cases in Hawaii. The report's introduction emphasized 2 main points: errors in the 2010 investigation process and breakthroughs due to modern forensic technology in 2020. The error evaluation section clearly stated that during the initial investigation phase, technical limitations and non-standardized crime scene processing caused many important details to be overlooked. Incomplete evidence collection, especially failing to test trace DNA on small samples, combined with the initial assumption of voluntary disappearance, delayed the correct investigative direction by at least 3 years. Additionally, personnel changes and pressure to resolve new cases led to the file being archived without periodic review plans. The report called this a chain of professional interruptions, leading to a prolonged gap, but also affirmed that storing evidence under standard conditions inadvertently created opportunities for next-generation technology to recover data. The second part of the report, 2020 Technology Breakthroughs, focused on analyzing how trace DNA, digital image recovery, and electronic data tracing completely changed the investigative approach. Analysts noted that just one remaining epithelial cell on the latex gloves, thanks to new gene amplification technology, reopened the entire case. Combining forensic technology with video motion analysis enabled accurate reconstruction of scenes that human eyes and 2010 equipment could not detect. Furthermore, retrieving GPS, IP, and financial data demonstrated the irreplaceable role of electronic data in current cold cases. The report's conclusion affirmed that the Eva Kane case was a typical example of truth does not disappear, it only needs the right tools to be found. The Cold Case Division proposed incorporating this case into the official Honolulu PD training program as a model integrating traditional procedures with high-tech investigation. Starting in 2023, the Digital Forensics and Cold Case Investigations training course used the Eva Kane case as a real-world scenario to train new officers. During the program launch, the Honolulu Police chief stated, "The Eva Kane case teaches us that what matters is not just finding the perpetrator, but never abandoning evidence, no matter how small." Regarding the victim's family, after the trial, the Cold Case Division held an official file handover ceremony. Documents, photos, and evidence were duplicated, sealed, and returned to Eva's closest relatives per regulations. During the simple ceremony at police headquarters, the family representative briefly stated that they found no comfort but found answers. Eva Kane's name was then added to the resolved cold cases list on the department's website, a category for cases once forgotten but ultimately closed through the persistent efforts of multiple generations of investigators. In her final personal summary, Detective Naomi Torres wrote a few lines in her notebook. "No case is cold if someone is willing to look at it again. What changes is not time, but how we reread what time leaves behind." That brief note was quoted verbatim in the introduction of the Cold Case Unit training materials, as a reminder to all future generations of investigators that patience, accuracy, and science are the only three factors that can bring truth back from darkness. With the comprehensive report, new training course, and completion of legal procedures, the Eva Kane case was officially closed, becoming one of the most representative cases of modern criminal investigation evolution in Hawaii. The Eva Kane case, closed after more than 12 years with trace DNA technology and electronic data, reflects many issues American society still faces today, from trust in personal relationships to community responsibility in protecting truth. The story shows that just one small deviation in the initial investigation, assuming Eva voluntarily disappeared, delayed justice for a decade. In modern American society, where technology and information develop rapidly, the lesson from this case emphasizes that technology is only useful when used with perseverance and professional skepticism. Without Detective Naomi Torres, who dared to review every old data point, noticed another female DNA cell on the gloves, or connected GPS and email data, Eva's death might forever have been considered a meaningless disappearance. From that story, we learn that truth can be hidden but does not vanish. What is needed is human dedication and the ability to leverage scientific progress to restore justice. On another level, the story warns of the dark side of greed and silence. Karen Scott, once Eva's close friend, complicit in concealing the crime, only for money and fear, ultimately lost her entire life. In a society that values freedom and professional ethics like the United States, this case reminds us that honesty and the courage to speak the truth remain fundamental non-negotiable values. Justice may come slowly, but it always finds its way back, as long as there are people who still believe that small traces, even just a hair strand or a blur in an old photo, can still speak for the lost. Thank you for following to the end of the story about the Eva Kane case, proof that justice can be delayed, but never disappears. Please subscribe to the channel to join us in exploring more mysterious cases where the truth is still waiting to be found.